my parents, when you're an Indian immigrant, they come here and you're supposed to become an engineer and you're supposed to become a doctor. That's it. Pick one of those two. That's it. Those are the things. And in my family, everyone in my family is doctors. Everybody, all the uncles, aunts, everybody's a doctor. And I was strong in academics, and they were like, well, he's going to become a doctor. And I decided to. I'll tell you why I went there, but then I decided to go to film school. And I was the first one in my high school to apply to college, first one to get in.
Wow.
And I only applied to one, and I applied to NYU Film School and got in early on a scholarship. And then I told my dad, the moment I told my dad he was watching the Flyers game. He's a big Flyers fan. And I came in and I said, Dad, I applied to film school, NYU's film school. I got in, I got a full scholarship, you don't have to pay anything, and I'm going. He didn't even look over. He was like, that's my dad. He doesn't get angry, just ignore, I remember how he was seated too. He had his hand on the sofa, and he just didn't look over, and he was like, okay. And he didn't look, I was standing in the door of the family room, and I walked away. That was the moment of like, you basically, essentially that you've thrown your life away, kind of thing. Because at that time, for an Indian family, for me to say that, and not much different now, to come in and say you want to become a filmmaker, is essentially saying, Mom, Dad, I'm going to become a rock and roll star, goth rock and roll star. You with me? And it's just insanity. It was insanity. And I could tell you, there's a lot of reasons why that 18-year-old kid version of me made that decision. But I felt absolute about it, 100% absolute about it. Now, by the way, we'll skip everything and come to where it is now. My dad now is so like, he makes sure everyone knows he's my dad. So if he goes to buy some gum, he'll buy it with a credit card just so the cashier will go, wait, are you related to? He's like, yes, I am. But now it's flipped the other way.
Right.
You go to the houses, like everything's like a shrine of like every magazine cover and everything. I was like, Dad, take all this down. You didn't want me to go to film school. But what ended up happening, I think there might be an interesting story about why I chose film.
Yep.
Was, I was 14, and in those days, when you go to the airport, you could actually go all the way to the gate with the people that were leaving. And my grandparents were going back to India, and it used to take forever, and the whole family would be there to send them off back to India, and we were all there, and I was waiting, and I walked to the little store there, and they had a little rack of books, and on the rack of books was Spike Lee's book about the making of She's Gotta Have It,
okay,
which is his first major film, and I asked my dad if he could buy it for me. And it was just there, and it just, and I honestly tell you this, if that book wasn't there at that moment, I'm not sure we'd be having this conversation. Maybe you guys would have come to see me as a doctor, and I would have been, but you probably wouldn't have seen any films. And the book was Spike delineating his emotions and the struggle to make his first film, and I read it and I was like, he doesn't know anybody. He just made a movie. I thought like Hollywood was this thing way over there, a magic thing, and it showed me he didn't know anybody. He didn't have family in it. He just made a movie. And then I read where he went to school. He went to school at NYU Film School, and that was it.
And the seed was planted.
Yeah, planted. Then I took my dad's 8mm camera, started making terrible movies. Then I went and got another camera, made more terrible movies, and I just did that my whole high school years, making just terrible movies and forcing everybody to be in them, in the class and the neighbors and anybody that my sister's friends would come over. I'd stop, don't stand over there and say this and hold this thing and pretend you're dying and whatever. And they'd be like, ah. And so I have all these terrible, terrible movies from that time period, and that led to my certainty of this is what I want to do.